the last time that I filmed something, I'll turn the AC down so hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit. I believe the last time that I filmed something was when the suspension broke on this mower. That was not a particularly fun time, I will concede. However, I went home and basically rage welded a new suspension arm together. I thought the damage was very bad. It turns out it really wasn't anything to be concerned with. And I was able to clone the surviving suspension arm. And as you can see, we are now eating up this coastal grass. This is not the world's greatest field of coastal grass, but I don't really like coastal grass, to be honest. It's kind of by pure coincidence, most of the people I've dealt with who either produce it or buy it have just been kind of difficult. So for that reason, I try not to produce it, but it does produce some really nice hay. And it's kind of a funny story. My accountant, my CPA, who manages my various companies, he put me in contact with the people who own this property. He said they're basically old boomers and they're getting ready to move. And I guess the old boomer who used to make hay here died or something. So basically, I get to do it now. So pretty thrilled. Doesn't really cost me much of anything to be out here. And I gotta dodge this power pole. So this is a little different. I don't really like producing hay that other people have grown because it's usually kind of thin and nasty. But these guys get a few bucks a bale for every bale that I take off of it. And so, you know, it's pretty cheap. What I prefer to do is lease ground for an entire year and do pretty intensive tillage and plant various types of things on it. And then turn those into hay. But you know, this isn't all bad. Yeah, so let's see, how is this cutting? We are 4.8 miles an hour right now, cruising through this. I'm using the economy PTO mode on the tractor, which is really nice because I drove all the way out to where this property is and I've cut 4 or 5 rounds already, and that fuel gauge has barely even budged. And I think most of what it has drank, it drank on the way over. So yeah. Oh, I hope this thing... I hope this thing holds together. Now, the property that we were cutting earlier, oh yeah, I finished a property that this broke on yesterday. I finished cutting it yesterday. It broke like 3 days ago, I think now. This is so thick you can hardly see the ground under here. It's pretty awesome. It's a nice problem to have if you ask me. I'm gonna drop a gear here. It's only 4th gear. But it's getting it. Now I must confess I have plugged this thing several times. The first 2 times were in another part of this property that just has some pasture grass. I figured I might as well mow while I'm here. And it was, I don't know what kind of grass it is, but it was really thin and wispy. Yeah, it was really thin and wispy, and whatever it is, it likes to get jammed between the sickle sections and the guards and stop the cutter bar from running. So that happened twice, and then another time I had the adjustment on this set to make a pretty wide windrow as opposed to just dump out all the grass directly behind the machine, like what you really have to do in thick. I mean, look at this, I can barely fit the tractor over this. And yeah, so I got a bunch of this grass plugged up behind where the conditioners are on the mower. It took me like a solid 30 minutes to pull it all out of there. Man, this son of a gun is getting it done. I am happy. New mowers are nice, but this thing has literally already paid for itself, believe it or not. If it blew up right now and was completely unfixable, just the grass I've dropped with it in the last little while here is worth more than I paid for the whole mower. We'll knock out this little section here. This area is a little thinner. About to mow my first ever successful crop that I planted. People told me to cut this 4 to 6 inches tall, you know, leave some stubble. Son of a gun, we're doing it. This is my Sudan grass. I think I planted this on May 23rd or something like that, and we are harvesting it on August 20th. Yeah, cool. We're doing it. Once I make the outside round, I'll probably bump this up a gear. This is, what is this? This is 3rd gear. I think we can do it in 4th at least. Yeah, this ground is a little rough out here because this is from before I bought a drag harrow and really figured out what that was all about. There's plenty of dirt clods out there. And it was super rough before I started. The people who own this property, they're really, really nice. And they tore out a bunch of wild mesquite trees and the like, so there's giant, you know, small appliance sized holes in the ground that I was disking through and then planting through. How about that? These new Burrs are my #1 fans. They hover around the tractor, and I guess they're picking out bugs from these crops I put down. That little rodents, I've seen some mice and stuff go running out. We're getting there. Okay, so that's cleanish. All right, so as one can presume, anytime you see a pickup in a field of hay beside a tractor and mower, one can assume that nothing good has happened here. And honestly, the situation isn't that bad. I'm pretty sure today's Thursday. I decided I was going to take an Uber from this field back home because, you know, I didn't want to drive the tractor back home because obviously I'm not done mowing yet. And I didn't want to bother any of my friends or neighbors because it's like 7, 8 o'clock. They got done working for the day too. They don't want to jack around with driving out here. So I asked the Uber driver what day it was, and he thought I was making a joke, but I wasn't. This is the way hay season works. Anyway, the primary problem that we have lies underneath this mass of dried grass. Honestly, most of what's out here isn't that dry, but all the dry stuff gets kicked up over the reel, and so it settles on top of the machine. I had the genius idea of taking the plastic toolbox that came on my Kubota tractor and sticking it on the mower because it's, as you can see, it's absolutely tiny. You can fit nothing in here, and I put a big 50 caliber ammo can on the tractor as a proper toolbox, and it's left over with this. I was like, that's plenty big enough to hold some sickles and some spare parts and stuff. So I stuck it on here, and it lasted for 2 days before the hinges broke off, and it flopped open like that, and all of its contents, which is about $50 in parts and probably 10 or 12 sickle sections, flopped out into a windrow. One property, I think, before this one, and so that's going to be nice and fun to bail up. So yeah, I was kind of frustrated about that. I looked for it in the approximate location where I noticed this had happened. I was not able to find them, unfortunately, but hopefully once the hay dries down, I'll have a chance to see them before they go into the baler. Oh boy, yeah. So we got that going on. Also, in the midst of working on this moments ago, I got some grease on like multiple parts of me, but that includes my face. So if everybody could just take a moment and just pause the video and make a comment about that. So there's 11 billion of those with absolutely no meaning whatsoever. Really appreciate that. Please get to work on that, everybody. You know, really help the rest of us in our day-to-day life. So I managed to break a rock guard on this thing. So here's some sickle mower terminology. These things are the guards, and the triangle knife things are called the sections. I don't know why, but you know, whatever, that's the way it is. And I managed to break off one of the rock guards, you know, which is surprising because this field, there's really not that much in the way of rocks out here, but whatever. I caught one, broke it off, and all my spare parts fell into the windrow on another property. So I was like, well, shoot, you know, I had been home since then. I should have taken 10 minutes and thrown together another set of spare parts, which I never actually bothered to do. So now it's broken down and I didn't have parts. So I had to pause everything. Oh my goodness, that was like about 5 hours ago now at this point. Had to drive to a local hardware store and buy nuts and bolts. Had to run home and grab new rock guards and new sickles and an impact wrench. And yeah, and you know, about 5 hours later, we're back in business. I changed, I think, 3 or 4 sickle sections. Obviously, there's the one that broke shortly after the rock guard broke. And then I got to look, and there were a couple other questionable ones in there. And yeah, just, you know, everything must take as long as humanly possible. So now, instead of stopping for dinner, I'm just gonna mow through the rest of this like a gear or two slower than usual. And yeah, should be fun stuff. Overall though, you guys know, anybody who watched the square baler disaster on this channel a year or two ago can tell you that I am in no way, shape, or form a New Holland fanboy. But I must concede to you guys